Track presets and track archives. What are they and why are they useful for modular template building inside of Cubase? First of all, let's start with track presets and cover what these are. Track presets are templates that can be applied to newly created or existing tracks of the same type. In essence, what this means is we can create something like an instrument track, load an instance of Contact on, load a patch into Contact, play around with the various settings, and assign plugins to the channel so we can sculpt a sound that we like. And then if we ever want to recall this particular setup, we can save it as a track preset. And then from the media browser in the right zone of Cubase, we can scan through multiple different track presets which we've configured and saved, and quickly drag and drop those settings straight into Cubase to build modular templates very quickly and very easily. To create a track preset, simply select the channel you wish to save or multiple channels you wish to save as a track preset, right-click, then from the drop-down menu go to Save Track Preset. A pop-up dialog will appear, and for most of you it will look like this. If you go to the top right and click on Show Attribute Inspector, this will give us some additional options for embedding data into the track preset, which will make our lives much easier when it comes to browsing through presets in the media bay of Cubase. At the top here, we can do things like create folders. So if you want to be very meticulous with categorizing your track presets, then you can do so and save them into multiple different folders. At the bottom here, the Attribute Inspector allows us to apply things like category. So we can choose from a list of different category sounds. Obviously, this is brass, so I'm going to select brass. The character attribute box allows us to assign different sound characteristics. So if it sounds dull, dark, bright, we can check those from in this window. Although I don't really tend to use this, but you may find use for it. We also have a ratings box. So if your sound is really terrible, you can rate it a 1 star. Or if it's really good, you can rate it 5. We also have style, so we have a number of options here. If it's classical, rock, metal, pop, reggae, for me, I'm just going to choose classical. And then subcategory is very much like the original category. However, there are more additional options to choose. So I think, if I remember rightly, this was a trombone patch we loaded in. Yeah, I might be wrong, but we'll select trombone from the drop-down list. And style is exactly like the style category, but again with some additional options, allowing you to be more specific about the sound and will help you when searching for specific sounds in the media browser. So I'm going to give this a name, and we're going to click OK to save our track preset with these settings. Next, let's take a look at how we import a track preset into the project. So let's remove this track we created and pretend we've started up a new project and we want to recall that really awesome brass sound that we made in one of our previous projects. Because we've saved it as a track preset, we simply open up the right zone, go to User Presets, then Track Presets, and in here there'll be 5 different category folders. Obviously, with that being an instrument track that we created, it'll be put in the instrument track folder. If it was an audio track, it'd be put in the audio folder. If it was a sampler track, in the sampler folder. And if it was MIDI, be in MIDI. If it was a multitude of different tracks that have been selected, it'll be saved as a multi-file. And because we saved our instrument as a single track preset, it'll live in the VST Instruments folder. At the top here, you can see there are a multitude of different tabs. And when we applied the attributes to our track preset, if I wanted to search for all of my trombones, I could literally select trombones in the subcategory, and Cubase will list everything that has been tagged with trombones. So if I have a lot of different patches from a lot of different libraries, I can see them all here. If I wanted to browse by section, I could go over to the category menu and select brass, strings, or percussion. Cubase will then list all of the brass instruments associated in that category that we've tagged. So we'll be able to see all of our trumpets, horns, trombones, X, Y, Z. You'll also notice on each of the tabs that list subcategory, category, and instruments, there's a little drop-down arrow on the far right. If you select this, you can change the viewing preferences for each of those categories and arrange them in a way that suits your preferences. Let's go ahead and import our trombone track preset into the project. We'll simply navigate to it, then drag and drop this into the project window. And Cubase will automatically load in our instrument track with all of the settings that we applied previously. Now, one of the downsides to track presets is that Cubase tends to load a preview file of the preset at the bottom here. And this is purely so you can audition the sounds before you load them into the project. The issue with this is that it loads up the entire instrument into RAM before you've actually imported it in. So if you have a track preset with a lot of instrument tracks that have not been purged or disabled prior to saving, then you're going to be waiting a couple of minutes for Cubase to load up a preview of it before you can then import the track preset into the project. So hopefully Steinberg are going to address this and make it so we can turn this off inside the track preset browser, because it's a little bit annoying and can cause some issues. One of the major drawbacks with track presets is that when you save a multi or a combination of different instruments as a track preset, if you've created any routing, so if you've routed anything to custom groups and subgroups, master groups and effects, all of those things don't get saved with the track preset. And this is where we can segue into track archives, which allow us to do all that. So here I've got a track preset which I've loaded in of GGD. All of my outputs are assigned to different channels in the mixer. I'm going to select these. I'm going to add these to a group bus. And then we'll also add an effects send for the snare tracks here. So I'm just going to select those, add an effects, and maybe choose some random reverb. Okay, so we'll add that in. Now, track archives allow you to do all the things that you can't really do with track presets. So now that we've got this set up, you can put any plugins if you want on any of the channels. Oh, actually, I forgot to connect the reverb to the group output. So let's just quickly change that. Okay, so now that we've got all of these set up, let's move these around here, add some different colors to the track channels so we know what's what. Add these to a folder track. And by the way, unfortunately, with track presets and track archives, it does not recall folder tracks in either of those, but I'm going to put them in a folder anyway. Remove these. And now to create a track archive, we select those channels, go to File, Export, and then Selected Tracks. This will give us a little pop-up window for Cubase 10.5 users so we can copy media files or reference media files along with this export. And we also have an option at the bottom here to make this cross-compatible with different versions of Cubase, which is really handy. So you've got backwards compatibility there if you need to load up these track archives on an older version of Cubase. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then this will say, where would you like to save this? So I'll leave it on the desktop. I'll just put test. You can save it wherever you like. And now that that has been saved, we can go ahead and remove all of these. Now let's go ahead and pretend we've started a new project and say, okay, I want to load in the drums of GGD and I want that configuration where all the outputs are set up and they're all assigned to their groups, subgroups, and effects channels. I can simply go to File, Import, Track Archive, and load up the XML file. Now you'll get some import options come up here in Cubase, most of which are pretty self-explanatory. So we can select all of our tracks, we can deselect all, we can select matching tracks, and we've even got a little search function to type in if we want to load in or look for specific tracks out of an archive that we have saved. On the right-hand side here, you'll notice we have some additional options. So track data to be imported, we can import events and parts, channels, and inspector settings, and even automation. And down here, we can import position for events and parts. So import at absolute position, import at relative position, and import at cursor position. And down here, we also have copy to active project folder. So if we want to copy over any media files that got saved with the track preset, we have the option to do so, which is really useful. So let's go ahead and import these tracks by selecting them. Now the first thing you will notice is that the folder track isn't included which is a great shame, and I hope that they include this with track presets and track archives. But one thing you will notice is that if I load up the mixer, all of the routing will be as it should when we saved the original file. So it's quite easy to see why you would want to choose track archives over track presets when building templates, because if you've done any complex routing like this, they can be quickly and easily recalled, and you can see here everything's working as it should be. Personally, I would like to see a few improvements on the track preset side of things and also in the track archive side of things from Steinberg. If we were given the ability to save groups, effects and sends and folder tracks, everything that we need as a track preset, with having the ability to turn off the preview, that would be absolutely brilliant, because not only would it improve the workflow, it would also help improve the performance as well. And when it comes to track archives, I would also like to be able to save things into folders and have the ability to view track archives from within the media browser as its own tab, because as it stands at the moment, you have to just navigate to the drive location to load things up. And you can see here we saved that XML to the desktop, but even in the media browser there's no way to view that file and drag and drop it in. So if that kind of flexibility was also implemented in a similar fashion to track presets, then that would make this even better. As far as track archives and track presets go, that is pretty much the gist of both of them, and hopefully I've covered everything so you can understand the differences between the two and why you might want to start using them to build your modular templates. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.